Call this meeting to order. If everyone could please stand and join us for the pledge. I pledge
allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Roll call, please.
Trustee Wilson?
Here.
Trustee Mattson?
Here.
Trustee Scalise? Here. Trustee Galuza? Here. Trustee Smith?
Here.
Trustee Christopherson? Here. Mayor Balderman?
Here. First up is an annual presentation. And as we talk about these things quite frequently, we talk about how we don't make a big enough deal out of them. But Kim is here for many reasons, but one is to accept the Distinguished Budget Presentation Award given by the Government Finance Officers Association for the budget document that was presented. This is the highest form of recognition that in governmental budgeting. So this is a remarkable achievement. Kim, I know you know I'm going to ask you how many years we got this thing.
I think 29.
29 years. That's really remarkable.
I'm guessing, but I think that's it.
Yeah, but when we talk about, there's a couple of different awards that get bestowed upon our finance department, and I know Kim will say as well, especially with the budget, it truly is a team effort. It's a great job headed up by our administrator and assistant administrator by getting all the department heads together and making sure that we have the budget. But this is really about preparing the document and presenting it in the most professional way, and that happens through Kim and her department. So, Kim, I want to present this to you, and believe me, we know. And we would certainly hope that the community would know that this may just be a little plaque, but there's an awful lot of work that goes into this. This is not something that every community gets, not even close. And for us to get it this many years, is really something remarkable. And 29 years, we've seen a couple recessions, we've seen a pandemic. There have been all sorts of issues that the finance department has had to deal with staff. And Kim, you really, I know you're very good about sharing the credit, but you really do a tremendous job. So thank you very much, and I'll come down and present this to you. As you know, you have to talk for as long as it takes me to get back to the.
Thank you. Thank you. Yes, I know you really don't like me to say that it is a team effort, but it is a team effort. The document itself is not only a financial plan, but it also is a policy plan. All the policies of the village, financial policies, debt policies, fund reserve policies, all that is in the document along with the numbers. And it does take input from everybody, really. I mean, there's statistics in there, there's community demographics, just a lot about the community, and it's the plan of the village, and it is just more than just financial document. So it does take everybody's input. But yes, I do coordinate it and submit it. So I do play a role in it, but it does take everyone else's coordination too.
Yeah, no, we certainly have no problem with sharing the credit, but you never give yourself enough.
Well,
And
I appreciate
that's my
that.
point. So,
All right.
thank you very much. Congratulations.
Thank you.
All right, next we have a public hearing annexation agreement for Lakes Park. Madam Clerk, do you have proof of notice?
I do.
All right, thank you. If there's anyone that's going to speak on this matter tonight, please stand and be sworn in.
Raise your right hand, please. Do you solemnly swear that the testimony that you are about to give this evening is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God? Okay.
All right, thank you very much. All right, Robin?
Yes.
Those of you may remember that several years ago, a similar proposal was before you. The village did, at that time, approve annexation and zoning for single-family homes and duplexes. However, that deal kind of fell apart, and those ordinances were never recorded. And since that time, the piece in the northeast corner that was formerly part of this, or was part of the project several years ago, is no longer included. So what you have tonight is annexation of just under 70 acres. It is contiguous to Lee Creek South to the west. And then this would be the furthest east that the village limits would go along the north side of Laraway Road, because on the other side of this property is the village of Frankfurt. They're proposing 3 different zoning classifications, R2 for roughly 2/3 of it, and then a component of R4, which would allow for duplexes, and R6, which is townhomes, predominantly in 6-unit buildings. The comprehensive plan recommends single-family for this property, which does account for the single-family homes and the duplexes. Because the townhomes are not recommended, we did ask for a market study that was submitted that did show support for this. The findings of that market study are very similar to what Tracy Cross came back with the draft of the housing study that the village hired him to do, which will be presented to you at a future meeting. But based on that and the demand for townhomes, which there really are not any comparable projects within the area, staff recommended approval of the 3 different zoning classifications. When this was before a public hearing at the Plan Commission also recommended approval. So you also have a preliminary PUD plat that would be attached to this. So there's 91 single-family lots, 50 duplexes, and 100 townhomes, which comes out to just under 3.5 units per acre, which is the maximum density recommended by the comprehensive plan. There's also a number of stormwater detention facilities throughout the project. Landscaping, we're working through some comments on the preliminary landscaping plan. Along the north pond, they would have a 6-foot wide trail. Staff is recommending that they add trash receptacles and then maybe a detention overlook area to further justify the higher density range. Then there would also be a 8-foot tall PVC fence along the CN Railroad tracks, which is to the north there. And then along Laraway Road, in lieu of a traditional 3-foot berm, because of grading and detention water flow issues, they will have an undulating landscaping, but to compensate, they are planting taller evergreen trees, especially behind those townhomes that would be the closest to Laraway Road. And then they also have a more decorative fence feature along there as well. Okay. The single-family portion will be developed by Lennar, so these are some sample elevations, even though traditionally we don't include them with a PUD, but they did provide them, so they're here just for your information. There are a couple of zoning deviations from the R2. They are some of the lots, because they're larger lots, they have narrower street frontage, and the subdivision code says larger lots require more frontage. But in this case, staff recommends that we just do a subdivision code waiver so that the homes can be at the same setback as the remainder of the street frontage. And then there is one lot in the northeast corner on a street curve that through the PUD, we just want to make sure that the driveway is located near the southern part for safety reasons. The duplexes would be done by Catchy Builders, so these are some representatives. Elevations that would be similar to what they would be building here. We are requesting that anti-monotony provisions be included in the PUD, just so you have a variety of color schemes and different facades, so it's not too monotonous. And then there are, again, a couple lots that, because of their larger size, would require a larger frontage, but we would just recommend a subdivision code waiver. Our subdivision code also requires a wider street for multifamily areas. Because these are only duplexes, they're proposing to just have a 66-foot wide right-of-way with our typical residential street cross-section. Staff does not object to that. The townhomes would be developed by Lennar. Staff is suggesting that each unit be provided with a rear patio or a deck. Again, anti-monotony provisions. This is a representative of the 4-unit. And then within this area, there are a couple concerns that staff does have. First is the lots that are highlighted in yellow. You've got a lot of driveways that are all converging in one area. Subdivision, or the zoning ordinance requires a 20-foot wide driveway to be maintained from the garage to the street, and you don't have that here for a couple of the units. So staff's suggestion was that they may have to eliminate some of the 6-unit buildings, may have to be reduced to 4 or 5-unit buildings in order to maintain that. They're proposing that there be some sort of a shared driveway as it gets closer, but staff is not supportive of this deviation. So would like to hear the board's comments on that. And then in order to provide additional off-street parking, because I'll talk a little bit more about on-street parking in a minute, but the areas in red would be similar to what we've done in front of park sites where you have perpendicular parking spots within the right-of-way. Those would be maintained by the homeowners association. One of the biggest concerns that staff had, and this was also a concern of the Plan Commission, is these areas that are highlighted in red, they have a very tight turning radius. So in addition to it being a subdivision code waiver, which the village has gone down to 150 feet in some subdivisions for a centerline radius, these are 90. And through the fire truck turning study that's required, it really showed that if cars were parked on both sides of the street, it would interfere with public safety. So what is being proposed is to restrict parking on the inside of the curve, which is where the fire hydrants would be located. But in all of these areas, there would be a prohibition of on-street parking. Within the townhome area, you've got those other off-street parking areas to help compensate. But staff and the Plan Commission have a lot of concerns. One, about enforcement, and two, in the single-family areas where, people have parties or, as kids get older, have multiple cars, it's going to become a potential problem. One of the things that we had suggested was running another north-south street to basically connect those. But the way that this is laid out with each housing product kind of within its own little pod makes sense from a land plan, but results in this issue. And then lastly, this is the proposed phasing plan. They're proposing 2 phases. Each phase would include a portion of all 3 of the housing types. One other issue that with Leigh Creek, which is also zoned R2, the R2 district allows a 1,500 square foot ranch. In that annexation agreement, the board mandated a minimum 1,600 square feet. So just to be consistent, staff was suggesting that should be 1,600 square foot minimum for a ranch as well. But I know there's representatives here from everybody, if the board has any questions.
Thank you. A good presentation. All right, who'd like to speak first? And it would be helpful if you address the concerns that Robin had put forward. So whoever wants to start. Just state your name for the record, Mr. Catchy.
Good evening. My name is Tom Catchy from TJ Catchy Builders. As Robin stated, we had come before the village, I think it was 10, 15 years ago, with another project that was a separate development company that had hired me to bring it through the village. And at the 11th hour, when we had everything approved, they couldn't get their financing and it fell apart. So we're here today. We have our own development team. Financing is in place, and we're prepared to finish this project with the help of Lennar, who is committed to take on the lion's share of the project. Robin, your questions, do we want to take them in order, or?
Sure.
Yeah, let's do that.
And where do you want to?
Well, I mean, I think that,
The primary,
yeah, the primary.
the streets.
Yeah, the primary one is just the streets.
And I have to go back to, I mean, the village has been great to work with. I've been working in the village for over 20 years. Love working with staff, Robin and Jeff and company. This is not our first attempt here. Our first attempt here had north-south streets. And we were directed to kind of figure out a way to separate the product types, which is where we came up with these pods, so to speak. And they create a situation where instead of having a stop sign at a corner, we just have a soft corner. So we're kind of operating under the assumption that these corners will be almost acting as stop signs. And when we remove parking from both sides of the street, Robin, I think you mentioned one side of the street, we're going to take no parking on both sides of the street, indicated by signs as well as painting of the curb. The homeowners associations will also be responsible for managing that situation. And once we get rid of the parking, the turning radiuses work for garbage trucks, fire trucks, et cetera. The on-street parking for, I have a big graduation party. There's still substantial on-street parking once we eliminate just the little radiuses. What else did we have, Robin?
The suggested amenities,
And that's,
patios, the stuff by the benches around the north detention pond.
and that's certainly manageable. We'll absolutely do that with the walkway. And that's what we had on our previous development. We actually,
But in regard to the radiuses, you're relying on people following the rules with parking?
yes.
No,
No, I know.
no. You can go right over here to Manor Drive. There's a parking sign. I used to own the condo right there. There's a parking sign that says no parking. There's a car in front of it all the time.
Where are the police?
If you go through.
Where
this
are the
reminds me of
police?
kind-
Well, I can assure you that the police are not looking for people that are in a no parking. We don't have a police department that responsibility is to come over and write tickets because something wasn't written the way that staff and board would recommend.
Plus, it's not in our economic future
Yes.
to cover your mistakes, basically. Sorry.
No.
You built a great product, not complaining about anything you built so far, Tom. You've built
he
wonderful
does.
products. But it's not our problem so you can get more density.
Well,
I'd rather
as-
have the roads full because, I mean, this kind of reminds me of Westmere out in Joliet. My sister used to live there, where you had a mix like this with the curbs. All the streets were no parking. All the streets were full.
Yep,
You know,
this
and
is-
and I really don't want to wind up having to hire two more officers to go, to be blunt, go make our residents angry at us because we're covering your density.
Well, and each and every one of us has lived in a subdivision. I did when I was in Bluestone Bay, where everybody's kid was 3, and before you know it, they're 16.
Yep.
And like Robin said, there are cars everywhere.
Sure.
Now, I can appreciate that your initial plan showed something different, and I get what staff was saying. The whole pod idea makes sense, separating that, but you may have to lose some density to take care of these streets, because we can't, I mean, I can't speak for the whole board, but I can't imagine that this board is going to approve something with the hope that people will pay attention to the yellow paint on the curb.
And I will say, I'm going to speak up and say that being in real estate and dealing with this on a daily basis, this is going to be an absolute logistical nightmare with these streets. First of all, this is a very Plainfield-esque type of a layout. You've got 6-unit buildings, 2-car garages on each unit. There's going to be nothing but cars lining the street, and an HOA ticket means nothing to anybody. It's going to be a disaster. It's going to make the neighborhood lose value, because nobody wants to own in a subdivision where it's just wall-to-wall street parking. And I live in a subdivision right now in New Lenox. It's a U-shaped street. I have 4 drivers with 4 cars that are out on the street, and it is a struggle for emergency vehicles and garbage vehicles, and I live at the back end of the U, so I've got the curve here and the curve here, and every day, I'm like, I pray to God that these 3-year-old children running around the neighborhood are not gonna get hit by one of these teenage cars flying through the subdivision. I just, logistically, there's not enough
Here.
There's not enough parking, the streets are too narrow,
Again, I'll echo what Dave said. The concerns about what is going to be built in the product, for me, are non-existent either. It's going to be great.
they're beautiful.
Even with staff, what they're talking about, I think what staff has mentioned is very reasonable. Now, I can appreciate where you started and where you are, and we don't want you going back and forth. But for me, and I don't know the rest of the board had a look at this, this really is my only concern, major concern. And one thing we don't mess around with is public safety.
Right. Oh,
And so, when it comes to radiuses for fire trucks and that sort of thing. So if there's a way to address this beyond just potential enforcement and a hope that people will follow the rules, I think you're gonna need to go down that road.
Well, we're open to suggestions, absolutely.
And here's what I would say with that. Normally, we would say, it's not our job to design but if we gave you feedback saying
Right.
that, we didn't want all the straight roads, I think, Robin, maybe we can get a little creative. Again, we don't wanna tell you how to design your subdivision or layout, but, I mean, there have been a couple suggestions I heard Robin make tonight as far as, not having 6-unit, so there are a couple of things that I think she's presented to you. But
We're going back to our original plan with the north-south streets, same density.
what was the issue with that, Robin? Do you recall? With the original plan that we didn't
I
like?
honestly don't, because I think when it was ultimately submitted, it was submitted this way, so I don't know if that was that concept.
Yeah, at the,
Do we
So,
want to have a look at that
Yeah.
or something? Here, and again, I'll speak for myself, and we're still under public hearing, but I like the mix of units. I think it's great. I know we went out and did that study, and there is an absolute need for townhomes, which is the only deviation from the zoning here. So I personally don't have an issue with it, don't have an issue with what we know the final product is gonna be. That this was my biggest concern, and I think maybe the biggest concern of the majority of the board. So if you had something else that you can show, Robin, that we can kind of work through after first read?
I don't
To
have-
address those concerns?
yeah, I don't have it in front of me, it's been so long.
Yeah.
We've been working our way, but I could have sworn originally our plan had 3 northwest streets, and the big deviation from this plan was we had the duplexes directly on Laraway Road on the,
Did you have narrow streets?
So, I'm Scott Schreiner, I'm Design Tech Engineering President. So we did the land plan and the engineering, so maybe I could help a little bit.
Did you have
So-
narrow streets before?
So right now, the only streets that are narrow are the duplex streets. And,
That's where you need the parking the most.
well, the duplex streets, we were told, is considered residential, single-family homes, attached
Yes.
single-family homes. So we didn't go to the wider streets there. That was never really an issue for us. We were only asked to widen the streets in the townhouse section to meet code. So the townhouse streets are the wider street sections. It's only so the single-family and the duplex are the same width, and then in the townhouse, it's the wider section, which is according to code. The original land plan basically connected the 3 streets on the east side that are looped now together. So that was a straight road, straight north and
Okay.
south. And then along the west side, that was a straighter road as well, where you see the 2 small sections.
Do we have a plan of the old one? Just because, I'm sorry, I'm thick. I'm not very bright.
Yeah, some.
I'd rather at least look at what it looked, do you get it up on the board?
Well, this was not our, this
Okay,
was,
that was a while back.
Just because we're referring to a plan that I don't think anybody up here remembers?
Well, I don't think we saw it.
no, it wasn't
Okay.
presented.
No, it didn't come
officially.
here. Here's what I would say. And at some point here, we'll close the public hearing and go to first read on this deal. But again, please, anyone feel free to speak up. You just, Scott, you talked about how in the initial plan, the east side was straighter roads, so that radius was not an issue, as well as on the west were the two.
Correct.
Okay. So what I would say, and Robbie, you don't think you saw that? That was in,
I think we did, but then the issue was, we tried to encourage like at least a slight curve in the
From-
streets so that it's not just a straight shot because of,
Speed.
speeding and just, the attractiveness of the subdivision.
sure. So in other words, they just went a little too far to that recommendation. We just need to soften up your radiuses a little bit here. That's what we're talking about, right?
Yeah.
That coupled with the restriction on on-street parking could probably.
Well, we might be able to get rid of that
Right, if it's softened enough.
Right.
Well, you said you had the same densities with that mile.
But that was with the straight, and I get what Robin's saying. Then next thing you know, everyone will be in here looking for stop signs because 20 miles an hour is 50 miles an hour. So here's what I'll say. Thank you. You took staff's comments to heart and you changed your plan accordingly. I just think maybe it got tweaked a little too much, and we need to find a way to soften those radiuses so they're not where they are now. And if you lose a little bit of density, you lose a little bit of density, maybe you don't. I don't know. You've got to work through that plan and see. But really, that's the major issue, right? That's the,
Right, I mean, the utility extensions that Public Works was recommending, that's all included in the
Yeah.
annexation agreement.
You said that some of the driveways were smaller?
Just
Those weren't no
just
six,
in
yeah.
this one area.
See, I have an issue with that, because if you go to any condo, if you've got a again, referencing our beloved neighbors to the west, and you have a 16-foot driveway, there's a reason why we went to a 20-foot driveway, because 16-foot driveway stinks. Get out of it, step in the dirt. Trying to get two cars on it, damn near a nightmare, you can't get in between. So we went the 20-foot. I do not like deviating from the 20-foot unless you have a very, very, very good reason. Density, in my opinion, is not a good reason.
no, and I agree with staff on that as well, that issue needs to be addressed. But we talked, that's the 6-unit stuff, right, Robin?
Yes.
Yes, that's where it needs to be
Yeah,
a
and
40.
it's really just two buildings.
Right.
It's two
And if they
buildings.
lessen that density, that.
I can't hear that much.
Yeah, it's just two buildings over there.
Yeah, okay.
And by reducing that, it should take care of that issue.
And it's two buildings that, per our exhibit, would be able to have 6 cars parked for every unit in their driveway.
How many people park
Becomes less.
more than 2 cars in the driveway?
I'm just, the concept.
But the problem is, Tom, you know it as I know it. We got to look at the real world.
Yep.
I mean, we can't look and say, hey, these people are going to be the best people you ever had. Because to be honest, I've developed, you know that, you're first, landlord, whole 9 yards, been all the games. You know and I know that once we're gone, not our problem anymore. It's New Lenox's problem, da-da-da. The residents aren't going to come knocking on you when they can't park because somebody's blocking their driveway. They're going to come to us. And like I said earlier, in my opinion, up on this board, and I have for a very long time, I look at what's going to happen in 5 or 10 years to that subdivision, and what's it going to cost the village of New Lenox. And we worked, especially Tim, has worked extremely hard to make lifestyle in this community and the way you live in this community premier. I mean, it was one of the nicest places to live in. I don't want to screw that up in 5 years because I got a subdivision that nobody parks in and everybody's screaming about it.
I
Or
appreciate
I
it.
got to hire 2 more cops to go out there and patrol this all the time at, this subdivision then paying for it, everybody else's.
And Tom, this may be much ado about nothing. If you can soften those radiuses without losing density, that's a major issue. And you may lose a little bit here on these 2 buildings, but if that's the adjustments that you have to make.
Robin, could you pull up is there a middle ground? For example, if you look on the right side of the plan, if we straighten that street out to where the townhomes and the duplexes met each other,
So that was going to be my suggestion. Why make the duplexes and the townhomes their own individual pods when you could just kind of merge those together?
We absolutely can.
That's what we had originally
Instead
proposed.
of
and-
merging those together, I think doing one longer street, you know,
Right.
keeping everything the same, but taking, instead of having all these U-shaped areas, if you merge that duplex and townhome area together, you'll have fewer corners. You might be able to open it up a little bit more to add some additional parking areas in there.
Well, I agree with you wholeheartedly, and that was our first plan. And we kind of got direction from the village, and maybe we overreacted.
Well, but like you talk about
We don't
though,
want it to
even,
be-
even with the widening of the streets, the duplexes are considered single family and the townhomes are not. And if all of a sudden that becomes one area, you've got a wide road going to a more narrow road. It's
Lake Street.
Lake Street is a
Lake
perfect
Street.
example. That's a perfect example of that. That's exactly right.
And we had to put a stop sign at Bentley and Lake because you transitioned from a wide street to a narrow street.
That's right.
Which wasn't a pain, wasn't a big deal at all.
Until. Yeah. That's the issue.
And why did you decide to do just both duplex and townhome? Because I'm finding that duplexes are selling much easier now than townhomes are.
Just in terms of the market, right now, there's no duplexes in New Lenox.
Right.
In 18 months, there's going to be duplexes all over the place. There's duplexes going into Frankfurt, there's duplexes going into Tinley Park, there's duplexes going in New Lenox.
People prefer
So there's going to be,
the duplexes, yeah?
you know, when we started this, yeah, we were the only game in town. But here we are, and now XYZ's doing them, and
Yeah, but there's a definite need for townhomes here as well. I mean,
Oh,
even our study
absolutely.
says there's an absolute need for townhomes. That's why personally, I don't have an issue with the deviation on the zoning for it, because there is a need for townhomes.
We need a mix.
I'm sorry?
We
We
need a
do.
mix,
That's why I
especially on the
like, that's
south
why I
side.
like the mix. I don't want to be hypercritical of what you're doing, because I appreciate when somebody listens to staff and tries to adjust the plans accordingly, and that's exactly what you did. So thank you for that. This is not the only subdivision where we're talking to somebody about having this type of mix with single family and townhome. And I think it's great. They can all coexist within a large enough area. Even your densities, which may be at the max, I don't have an issue with, as long as you can still take care of this road issue. That's I think where we're all at. And you did it, but unfortunately, it relies on factors that we're not confident in to be successful. So, you know, as we have said many, many times up here, it's not staff or the board's job to do your development. However, under the circumstances, no, I get it. We also don't want you coming back and then we
don't
send you
steer
again
us the
and
wrong
coming back.
direction either.
What's that?
Don't steer us in the wrong direction
No,
either.
we don't. No, and no, they didn't. I just think maybe, you know, unlike most people, you listen too closely. So I'm very confident knowing you and knowing how great our staff is, that we can probably find some way to make this work. Yeah, you might lose a little something somewhere, but don't you think, Ron, we might be able to get through this? Yeah, I'm confident we can. You're only up for first read here tonight. So after we close the public hearing, we'll have it back up and see if the board wants to make any other comments on it as well. But I'm comfortable, if the board is comfortable, with you going back, working with staff, tweaking some of these issues, and then it can still come back for that second read, so we're not delaying your
So we
project.
don't have to go back to plan
Cor-
commission.
Yeah, I mean, as long, Robin, right, we should be able to do that
Right.
as long as we get through, yeah. So that way it does not slow down your process, but it addresses the concerns of staff, it addresses the concerns of the board. Dave is right, you know, we don't want future.
I know.
We don't.
Dave is right.
We-
Hasn't
we-
he been
we-
around
we-
here long
but
enough?
But he's right, because Keith and I and Dave have been around a long time here, and we can tell you how many times somebody has said, I've got this problem that you created 10 years ago or 15 years ago. And we don't want to do that to future boards. And we know you know that, Tom. You've
Yep.
been a great partner
I've
with
been
the
here as
village for
long
a
as
long
these two
time.
guys, too.
Yeah, no. So if the board is, is there anything else for a public hearing? Anyone else want to speak?
If I
Yes,
could,
Scott,
if
go
I
ahead,
could ask
please.
one quick question regarding the curves before I go, because they're
Sure.
going to tell me to go redraw things. Is the biggest concern that we are imposing parking restrictions? Or is the biggest concern
It's the radius.
the
isn't
fire
it, Robin?
department?
Isn't the 90, what,
It's related. It's because
Right.
of the tight curves
That there has
that
to
the
be.
fire, they did submit a fire truck turning study that showed that a fire truck could get moved in, but that's assuming everybody parks right up against the curb,
If
Yeah.
the
which we
fire
know
truck-
doesn't
if the-
happen.
And the
If
reason,
fire
so the
truck's
reason
coming,
I
it's
asked
not a good
that
time
was
for
because if
enforcement.
it's strictly a parking, I could address it differently and I could add parking. If it, our opinion after speaking with the fire department was, they looked at our auto turn exhibit and they said, listen, our truck could get through there, your exhibit shows it can, but you're showing the cars parked right up against the curb, what if they're a foot in and this and that?
and they will be.
Correct, we agree. And they said that if you restrict it to one side, then we'd be okay. So we came back on both sides just to make sure that there weren't an issue. So if it's not a fire department issue, and it's more a parking issue, then.
Well, and we appreciate the fire department's concerns, but they don't always think globally. They're thinking just about their own
Sure,
particular
sure.
issue. Because nobody will call the fire chief 5 years from now when there's a parking issue over there. It'll be right here in front of this board. Robin knows what we need, so what, and she can work with you on it. What I'm saying is, it's not just a parking issue because, and she's right, they're hand in hand, but we can't assume that people will park correctly and so therefore your radius is okay. That's what's gonna need to be addressed. And like Robin said, maybe by addressing it, you may eliminate some of those parking restrictions that are there, which would be, to Trustee Galuza's point, maybe beneficial from a sales standpoint. If people know they can't park anywhere on the street, they might say, I'm not gonna buy here, I'm not gonna, So we're here to try and help you get through it. We're appreciative that you want to develop in our community. We think it would be good for our town and nice to have this mix, and we know we'll get a quality product. And like I said, as long as the board is okay, we'll have you, close the public hearing, we'll go through first read with any other additional comments, have you work with staff on that, and then it can come back. If staff feels like they can make a good recommendation, they have a good feel for what the board wants, it can come back to second read. Is that fair?
Beautiful.
Does that make sense?
Yep, thank you.
All right, is there anyone else that wants to speak on the record here for the public hearing?
Just want to comment, just keep in mind, we want to set up our residents for the best chance at success. So, not thinking about towing the line or what, how close we can get with our parameters, just setting them up for the best success, as well as our village staff.
And we do appreciate you taking staff's comments and working with them. We'll work with you from this point. Normally, we wouldn't because it's on you, but since you've done what you were asked, we'll just help you tweak, okay? Anything else? All right, at this point, then, we'll close the public hearing. Very good, thank you. All right, next up is the consent agenda, which consists of 5 items. They are the minutes of the regular meeting, July 8th, 2024, raffle license for 2024, GFOA Financial Officer Association, ordinance creating a Class TE liquor license for Ruth Limper Scholarship Fund for the IGFOA, surety reduction for Kline Subdivision, and approval of proposal for asphalt rejuvenation with the 2023 MFT areas. Any member wishing those items be pulled and discussed separately? All right, is there a motion to approve the consent agenda?
So moved. Second.
Motion by trustee Mattson, second by trustee Smith. If there's nothing further, roll call vote.
Trustee Galuza?
Aye.
Trustee Smith?
Aye.
Trustee Mattson?
Aye.
Trustee Scalise?
Aye.
Trustee Wilson?
Aye.
Trustee Christopherson?
Aye.
Mayor Baldwin?
Aye, motion carries. All right, A through D deal with Lakes Park. They are the consideration of an ordinance authorizing the execution of an annexation agreement for Lakes Park, consideration of ordinance annexing certain property, Lakes Park, consideration of an ordinance rezoning property, Lakes Park, and consideration of an ordinance granting a special use for preliminary PUD plat, Lakes Park. Robin, anything you want to add to all that?
Just because we had those previous ordinances from 2018, these ordinances repeal the previous ones, just so that in 10 years, when Laura and I are both gone, nobody's looking to see where these ordinances are, so.
Well, we're not letting you or Laura go in 10 years, so that's all right. Any other comments or questions for staff on this before they go back to try and help the developer with this? Anything else? Everyone had their concerns addressed? All right, very good. We look forward to seeing you in a couple weeks, and hopefully we come to some good resolution, all right? Thank you for being here. All right, next up, we have consideration for approval of request for waiver of building permit fees, Lincolnway Christian Church. Robin?
Yes, Lincolnway Christian Church submitted a permit for some window and patio work. The permit fee would be $400, and these are in-house fees that they are requesting a waiver.
All right. Any questions for Robin on that? Is there a motion to approve the request?
So moved.
Second.
Motion by trustee Smith, second by trustee Scalise. If there's nothing further, a roll call vote, please.
Trustee Smith?
Aye.
Trustee Scalise?
Aye.
Trustee Mattson?
Aye.
Trustee Galuza?
Aye.
Trustee Christopherson?
Aye.
Trustee Wilson?
Aye.
Mayor Balderman?
Aye, motion carries. All right, next up, we have consideration for approval of a site plan for 12450 Horseshoe Drive. Robin?
Yes, so this is the very northeast part of the Plank Trail Industrial Center. The lot in question does include a portion of the existing detention pond, but west of the pond, there is area for development. So what is proposed is a roughly 18,000 square foot building. The anticipated use is personal storage. However, they are providing enough parking and setting it up so that it could be sold for future industrial use when it's no longer needed for the personal use. Because it does have some adjacency to the pond, they are proposing an outdoor deck area that would overlook the pond. Landscaping is in compliance with the annexation agreement terms. And then this is the proposed building elevations. They do meet all of our codes. So staff is recommending approval.
Any questions for Robin on that?
Not on Robin.
All right.
How are you gonna make sure that grade stays there? You have a hell of a drop on that east side. I mean, it's substantial, and you're up against the pond. How do we make sure that part of your slope doesn't wind up in that pond?
If someone wants to step up to answer, is somebody here that can answer that question? And just state your name for the record, please.
Bill Bond. We propose a retaining wall, so it's going to be with the geogrid
It's
setback.
not shown on here. There's not a retaining wall on here, it's just showed a slope, and a slope like that next to a pond,
Do we have-
being a mower,
do we have a
person who
picture of the
mows,
retaining wall?
it's gonna be very rough maintaining that, seeding that, growing it, and making sure it doesn't wind up in our pond.
Correct. There is a retaining wall on one of our plans, correct? Yeah.
Which one? Because it's not on the grading plan, and that's where mostly you put walls.
As far as the retaining wall in the building,
Robin, do you have?
is there a retaining wall in the what you got in the structural?
I'm sorry, I worked construction too long, I'm half deaf.
Here, and if you're going to speak, please just come up and state your name. Thank you.
Chris Zabowski from Design House. So the retaining wall is part of the foundation of the building.
Yeah, I know,
So-
I get
yeah,
that.
okay.
You're covering your own butt for the building to not collapse. I understand that.
Sure.
But you're putting a slope and you're dropping roughly 6 or 8 feet and probably 10 feet. So that thing's gonna slope down substantially. One of the things I do is mow grass. I take care of industrial buildings, lawn care. Anytime you have a large slope, you can't maintain it. You can't mow it, it's gonna be grow grass, it's gonna go into a pond. I wouldn't wanna drive my mower there, because I don't wanna go swimming with it. So it's gonna be a pain, and you don't have any true resolution to said pain. I mean, if you want more, my opinion, if you wanna do it, drop that down, expose that wall, so you got less of a slope. Because if not, you're gonna have to put a step retaining wall alongside there. If not, it's gonna be a problem for us. Because again, just like the previous conversation, it's not you guys. You know, the owner of a building, you guys are gonna take care of that building, you're gonna make it look pristine constantly. The next guy, or the guy after, isn't. And that's what we run into our problems with. So again, I have to look for what's coming down the line. And I can see that being an issue coming down the line. We already have several issues with erosion and soil damage to existing ponds. We don't need to add another. Other than that, I think it's a great building, no problem.
All right, sounds good. I mean,
Please just speak it to the mic, please.
Yeah, as far as landscape and a landscaping retaining wall on the east side, we're not proposing anything.
There's not a
with it.
retaining wall. You're making your basement wall, your foundation wall deeper.
Sure.
A retaining wall is outside the building.
Right,
Unless you
right.
want to incorporate it as a building retaining wall. So please, there's two
No,
separate.
he was saying they were not
Okay.
proposing
Yeah.
it.
Okay, I'm sorry, I can't.
Yeah, but
again,
you've got to get a little closer to the mic so we can.
Yeah, I mean, that's all I have to say, so.
Oh, you're just saying you were not proposing it?
Not at this point, no, not on the east side, no.
All right, well, do you have, do you understand what trustee Smith is saying? Do you
Yeah,
agree with
yeah.
what he's saying?
Yeah, I understand.
Okay, all right. So what would your proposal be for,
Would the village prefer a retaining wall, or could we just drop down a separate
Again.
retaining wall?
We don't tell you how to design your building.
right?
We've noticed the problem. We suggest the problem. I'm fine either way. If you want to put a block retaining wall, much like we did over here at Cooper's Hawk,
Yes,
won't be as drastic, but if you
Right.
want to put a, or even here, we have the retaining wall here by Trinity's building. If you want to put a two-step retaining wall or a one-step retaining wall outside your building, 4 feet and 4 feet to bring it down, or if you want to drop your grade down and expose more of that concrete and still maintain, your frost depth underneath and your frost depth above, I don't care, and I'm only one.
Okay.
You're subbing us up here. I'm
no,
only one.
but, well, you are only one, but the reality is this is what you bring to the board as well. And as you're explaining it, it makes perfect sense. So, we like what you want to do, but Dave does bring up a good point.
Sure.
So, again, we're not going to tell you, but I think he talked about a couple solutions that probably would address the issue.
Yeah, and we do have a stepping retaining wall on the west side, so we can just apply it
Just apply it to the
similar,
east side
similar
as
to the
well.
east side, yeah, exactly. We'll just bring that up to the civil engineer and we'll figure that out, so.
Because that way aesthetically, it'll still look good from the other side and everything will match, rather than just having an open concrete wall on the back.
Makes sense.
Yeah.
So
It makes sense.
aesthetically, it'll be a lot more pleasing, especially being over by the pond.
All right.
Yeah, what you did on the
West side.
northwest corner is perfect.
Yeah.
If you did that alongside that other wall, you'd be right there.
Are there any other questions or concerns from the board? All right, Dave, that's a good point. Caught that. You have no issue with that?
No.
Okay, so we can, you're looking for approval on this tonight, so what about the surety, though? Is that just for the landscape surety, or is that?
No, the surety is just for grading and
Just for
public
the
improvements.
so we'll have
it-
nothing
it
to do
wouldn't-
with
it
that, so
would
that's
not.
fine.
No.
All right.
So we would, my recommendation would be that you approve it conditioned upon those details coming with the building permit.
Right, that's exactly what we'll do. Dave, do you want to make that motion?
I'll make that motion that we approve this based on what we just discussed.
Okay, and then with the building permit. All right. Is there a
I'll
second
second
to that? All right, so motion's by trustee Smith, second by trustee Mattson. Anything further? All right, roll call vote, please.
Trustee Christopherson?
Aye.
Trustee Mattson?
Aye.
Trustee Wilson?
Aye.
Trustee Scalise?
Aye.
Trustee Smith?
Aye.
Trustee Galuza?
Aye.
Mayor Balderman?
Aye, motion carries. Now, next up is consideration for approval of setting a surety for that in the amount of $52,225. Any questions on that? Is there a motion to approve that setting a surety?
So moved.
Second.
Motion by trustee Galuza, second by trustee Scalise. If there's nothing further, roll call vote, please.
Trustee Galuza? Aye. Trustee Smith?
Aye.
Trustee Mattson?
Aye.
Trustee Scalise?
Aye.
Trustee Wilson?
Aye.
Trustee Christopherson?
Aye.
Mayor Balderman?
Aye, motion carries. All right, thank you, gentlemen, we appreciate it. Thank you. All right, next up, we have approval of proposal for seal coating for various locations throughout town. Mark?
Yes, good evening. So we're kind of on a 3-year plan with our seal coating projects. This year, we decided to add one of our sites because we did some patching at sewer treatment plant number 1, which put this over budget. However, we're well under budget for the rejuvenation, so we're going to use the overage there, or the underage there, to pay for this. So at this time, I'm asking you to accept the bid and award the contract to Tiles and Style for $47,008.50.
Any questions for Mark? Okay, that's all right. If not, is there a motion to approve the proposals?
So moved.
Second.
All right, I'm going to ask that one more time. Who made the motion?
So
And
moved.
second? All right, motion by trustee Scalise, second by trustee Wilson. Any comments or questions? Roll call vote, please.
Trustee Smith?
Aye.
Trustee Scalise?
Aye.
Trustee Mattson?
Aye.
Trustee Galuza?
Aye.
Trustee Christopherson?
Aye.
Trustee Wilson?
Aye.
Mayor Balderman?
Aye, motion carries. All right, next we have consideration for approval of proposal well number 5 repair. Mark?
Yeah, last year I came to you guys with emergency repairs to well number 10 on Sojourn Road. At that time, we'd also looked at well number 5 on Nelson Road. That was showing deteriorating performance, but the repairs could wait till 2024. We did budget $100,000. Lane Christensen's the only contractor who's allowed to work on these per the manufacturer. They've sent us a letter. So Lane believes they can do the entire project for $75,000, but of course, until they actually get it out of the ground, they don't know for sure. So we're seeking approval up to the budget amount of $100,000, hoping it's going to be around the $75,000. So I'm asking to waive the formal bidding process and approve the proposal for them to do the work.
Yeah, Kurt and I had this discussion. That's what happened last time, and if we just approved that 75, you know, the minute they get out of the ground, I'm gonna have to come back to you. and tell
Yeah,
you
when we
there's
pull
more.
these old wells.
And we did budget, so. All right, so since they're the only ones that are doing this, first I'd need a motion to approve waiving the formal bid process.
So moved.
Second.
Motion by trustee Smith, second by trustee Scalise. All those in favor signify by a voice vote of aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion carries. Now is there a motion to approve the proposal to spend not to exceed $100,000 on well 5 repair?
So moved.
Second.
Motion by trustee Mattson, second by trustee Scalise. Any comments or questions? Roll call vote, please.
Trustee Christopherson?
Aye.
Trustee Mattson?
Aye.
Trustee Wilson?
Aye.
Trustee Scalise?
Aye.
Trustee Smith?
Aye.
Trustee Galuza?
Aye.
Mayor Balderman?
My motion carries. All right, next we have consideration for approval of purchase for vehicles for the police department. 3 new police interceptor vehicles for patrol officers, $47,615 each, and 2 Ford Explorer 4x4s at $43,380 each, all from Curie Motors. They are extending the state bid, so these are state bid prices that we're getting. The 2 administrative vehicles have been budgeted. 3 vehicles had not, but as you know, we've hired additional officers, and so therefore, we're gonna need these additional vehicles. They were not budgeted for. These purchases will rectify it. They'll be funded out of the state forfeiture fund, so it's not gonna affect our general budget. So the police department has a state forfeiture fund, and we'll be able to cover the cost of these that were not budgeted items. Any questions on that? All right, is there a motion to approve the purchase of the police vehicles?
So moved. Second.
Motion by trustee Wilson, second by trustee Smith. All right, comments or questions? Roll call vote, please.
Trustee Galuza?
Aye.
Trustee Smith?
Aye.
Trustee Mattson?
Aye.
Trustee Scalise?
Aye.
Trustee Wilson?
Aye.
Trustee Christopherson?
Aye.
Mayor Balderman?
Aye, motion carries. All right, next are trucks weight scales for the police department, which pay for themselves pretty quickly.
I hope they pay for themselves very quickly,
Very quick, yeah, no kidding, there's such an
because
increase.
it's ridiculous.
It really, really is. The budget amount was $10,700. However, the more we looked into it, the more we realized the scales we need are a little more expensive. That's why it's here, even though there was a budgeted item for it. The new amount is $16,118. Any questions on that? All right, is there a motion to approve the budget amendment to purchase the truck weight scales?
So moved. Second.
All right, motion by trustee Smith, second by trustee Mattson. If there's nothing further, roll call vote, please.
Trustee Smith?
Aye.
Trustee Scalise?
Aye.
Trustee Mattson?
Aye.
Trustee Galuza?
Aye.
Trustee Christopherson?
Aye.
Trustee Wilson?
Aye.
Mayor Balderman?
Aye, motion carries. Next up is consideration for approval of open institutional brokerage account with PMA Financial Network and IPRIME account. Kim?
Yes. With the proceeds of the 2024 GO bonds coming to us this week, the sizable amount of that bond issue and the fact that we don't have to spend the money immediately, we think it's best that we invest that money with PMA. They have an IPRIME account, which basically is always earning interest, favorable interest rates, and also we can invest, once we get the cash flow statement from, for the project, we'll be able to stagger our investments and invest some money while we're waiting for payment of those throughout the project. So It's one of the important things to do with investments when it comes to investing bond proceeds is make sure we don't have, run into an arbitrage issue where we earn interest beyond the guidelines, and we'd have to pay back to the federal government anything that we exceed in arbitrage calculation. PMA does provide that arbitrage calculation and monitors that. So we've invested this way back, it's been years, but 2007 we did this with PMA. It's favorable, so we can make some money on our proceeds while we are waiting for payment for those disbursements. So anyways, I recommend PMA opening an account and investing those funds at this time.
All right, any questions for Kim on that? No? All right, is there a motion to approve opening the institutional brokerage account with PMA?
Second.
Motion by trustee Mattson, second by trustee Christopherson. If there's nothing further, roll call vote, please.
Trustee Christopherson?
Aye.
Trustee Mattson?
Aye.
Trustee Wilson?
Aye.
Trustee Scalise?
Aye.
Trustee Smith?
Aye.
Trustee Galuza?
Aye.
Mayor Balderman?
Aye, motion carries. All right, next up, board is consideration for approval of proposal asbestos inspections, Route 30 and Cedar Road development. Obviously, that's an entire area over there. For the buildings located at 100 East Maple, 208 North Cedar, 204 North Cedar, and 250 East Maple. Pacron Consulting Inspection Services, the cost for the services estimated to be $6,360. There is a possibility it could be slightly higher if samples are necessitated. If there's no questions or concerns on that, is there a motion to approve the proposal?
So moved.
Second.
Motion by trustee Scalise, second by trustee Wilson. If there's nothing further, roll call vote, please.
Trustee Galuza?
Aye.
Trustee Smith?
Aye.
Trustee Mattson?
Aye.
Trustee Scalise?
Aye.
Trustee Wilson?
Aye.
Trustee Christopherson?
Aye.
Mayor Balderman?
Aye, motion carries. All right, next up is approval of resolution authorizing the execution of a right of entry agreement with C.V.S. This has to do with the property, their property, obviously, in town. Their soil testing that we know it came back as a clean site, but because of our funding, we're required to do this additional testing over there. Obviously, it was deemed clean when that area was redeveloped, but unfortunately, we don't have any choice in this matter. We approached C.V.S. and they are wanting $5,000 for us to have access. Their corporate office wants $5,000 for us to have access to their site to do testing. We're kind of hamstrung there, so we need to do the testing, and they have to give us authorization to go on their property, and that's what corporate wants for us to be able to do that.
Well, at least we know about C.V.S. now.
Yeah.
We bent over backwards for them, and they returned the favor.
Yeah, I can't say I was thrilled when I heard that, but there you go.
We understand.
We understand, that's right. Very good. All right, if there are no other comments, is there a motion to approve the resolution?
So moved.
Second.
Motion by trustee Smith, second by trustee Scalise. If there's nothing further, roll call vote, please.
Trustee Smith?
Aye.
Trustee Scalise?
Aye.
Trustee Mattson?
Aye.
Trustee Galuza?
Aye.
Trustee Christopherson?
Aye.
Trustee Wilson?
Aye.
Mayor Balderman?
Aye, motion carries. All right, next up, we have consideration for approval of resolution authorizing an execution of a loan agreement with the IEPA, WRRF. This is for our conveyance from wastewater plant 2 and the decommissioning of plant 2. Kurt, you want to add anything?
This is just a approval of the formal agreement that we've been working on for months, just a blessing to move forward. We've got the bids in, we're getting ready to move forward.
Very good. Any questions on that? Is there a motion to approve the resolution?
So move.
Second.
Motion by trustee Wilson, second by trustee Scalise. If there's nothing further, roll call vote, please.
Trustee Christopherson?
Aye.
Trustee Mattson?
Aye.
Trustee Wilson?
Aye.
Trustee Scalise?
Aye.
Trustee Smith?
Aye.
Trustee Galuza?
Aye.
Mayor Balderman?
Aye. As Kurt said, this is moving forward, which is obviously good news. Next is consideration for approval of a contract with WRRF Support Construction Services, Tria Architecture. They are providing construction engineering services for the construction of the administration building at the wastewater project. Contracts for time and materials not to exceed $200,000. Any questions on that? All right, is there a motion to approve the contract?
So moved.
Second.
Motion by trustee Scalise, second by trustee Mattson. There's nothing further. A roll call vote, please.
Trustee Galuza? Aye. Trustee Smith?
Aye.
Trustee Mattson?
Aye.
Trustee Scalise?
Aye.
Trustee Wilson?
Aye.
Trustee Christopherson?
Aye.
Mayor Baldwin?
Aye, motion carries. All right, next up, we have consideration for approval, of resolution authorizing and approving the execution of an agreement for parking and entrance modification between the Village of New Lenox and Meridian Investment Partners LLC. This is up by the complex, sports complex. Staff has worked, Kurt's done a good job, staff has done a good job working with them. It's going to be beneficial to them and to us, which should create some additional parking spaces for us as well. So we appreciate the partnership that we've had from them. Robin or Kurt, anything you want to add on that?
Yeah, actually, as this shows, it lines up the parking on the north and south. It actually gives us a whole nother row in our parking for the site, plus in our agreement. They would allow us to utilize their parking in the off hours, which we may be bringing back a number of other agreements in the area, because when both the building and the fields are open, we're probably going to look for as many parking spaces as possible. We're already taking care of 1,400 in the area eventually, so another 60-some didn't seem like a problem.
No, I mean, that's just it. As many of you know, it's all about parking and bathrooms. So this is just helping to add to some additional parking for the sports complex up there. So it's good. The businesses up there have been great partners to work with throughout this whole process. We've needed them from the very beginning. So we appreciate their support on that. Any questions? No? All right. Is there a motion to approve the resolution?
So moved.
Second.
Motion by trustee Christopherson, second by trustee Galuza. If there's nothing further, a roll call vote, please.
Trustee Smith?
Aye.
Trustee Scalise?
Aye.
Trustee Mattson?
Aye.
Trustee Galuza?
Aye.
Trustee Christopherson?
Aye.
Trustee Wilson?
Aye.
Mayor Baldwin?
Aye, motion carries. All right, next up, this is getting reals. Approval of resolution authorizing the execution of master services agreement for the website for our Crossroads Sports Complex. This is with WMT Digital LLC. They've been recommended by our partner Sports Facility, who is our consultant of course. The cost for the design for the website is $15,000 with ongoing maintenance costs of $2,500. Any questions on this? No? All right, is there a motion to approve the resolution?
So moved.
Second.
All right, motion by trustee Galuza, second by trustee Scalise. If there's nothing further, roll call vote, please.
Trustee Christopherson?
Aye.
Trustee Mattson?
Aye.
Trustee Wilson?
Aye.
Trustee Scalise?
Aye.
Trustee Smith?
Aye.
Trustee Galuza?
Aye.
Mayor Baldwin?
Aye, motion carries. All right, staff advises me we have no longer a need for letter 7, correct? Or S? We don't normally get that far down in the alphabet. We did tonight. So, right, Robin, so we're good with that?
We got the replacement letter of credit this morning.
All right, very good. All right, under reports and communications, a few things. Number one, of course, Mark, happy birthday.
Thank you.
Working hard on his big 4-9. One more year, huh, pal?
One more year.
That's it, that's what we like to see. Next, as we have said all along on the Sports Road Complex, sometimes things happen in between meetings. Kurt and council are going through some information right now. There's going to be a request that deals with landscaping, asphalt, fall fencing, steel for the building, electric for ball field lights, natural gas lines, shade structures. There's quite a bit that's being compiled and put together, but we're going to need to approve that prior to our next board meeting, which isn't for 3 weeks, I don't think, right? So
It all falls within the budget amount?
you're right, it's within our budgeted amount, and it's what we expected. But because it's going to be part of this ongoing project, like we always said, some of these things were going to fall between the cracks. So I wanted to at least inform you of it. We just didn't have it prepared and ready because council and Kurt are still looking through it. But if it's good and ready to go, it is all part of the project and plan. I just told you I'd always keep you apprised of everything that's happening. Any questions on that? All right, then I will just proceed with it, and we'll have it for your formal approval at the next board meeting. Tomorrow is at 11:30. If any of you have time, I know you are made aware of it, at Silver Cross Boulevard and Route 6. We are going to have honorary Ruth Colby Way. I know Mark's been working with staff to get that prepared. Ruth, of course, is the past CEO and president who we lost last year. She's did so much for our community and for this hospital, was such a remarkable woman and friend. And so we're going to honor her off Silver Cross Boulevard with a street dedication in her name tomorrow. So if you have an opportunity, we'll be meeting right there at the southeast corner of Silver Cross Boulevard and 6 at 11:30 for a brief ceremony unveiling that. I will also say for any board members that may have not have seen, and for the community that is smart enough to not be on social media, I've gotten a lot of calls from people over the last several months, as I'm sure you probably all have, about their concern with wait times in the Silver Cross ER. Silver Cross, and you know, again, Dave and Keith, you've been around a long time too. And in the 23 years I've been around here, except for my 2 short years over at the school district, to me, bringing Silver Cross to this community was the best thing that we could have done. Not only the hospital itself, which is a remarkable hospital, but all of the partners that they've brought with them, where people don't have to go downtown for cancer services or if their children are sick or rehabilitation. There's just so many great aspects to the Silver Cross campus, medical campus. Their ER wait times are very, very lengthy and very upsetting to our community and to the communities that the hospital serves. Unfortunately, you know, out of frustration, sometimes people take to social media and are not always very kind with their comments. So having been contacted by a number of residents and residents from the area, I talked to the new CEO and president, Mike Mutterer. I said, you know, there's an issue here I think we need to address. He immediately set up a meeting with the ER staff that oversees their emergency room and met with me. I voiced many of the concerns that I heard. They gave, first of all, they accepted some responsibility. They acknowledged there's a problem. They accepted some responsibility. They also enlightened me to quite a few things. Some of what maybe I knew but didn't really know the particulars. But, you know, for example, there are a number of people who are using the emergency room that should be at an urgent care or should be calling their primary physician and don't. You know, and that's really difficult because, you know, if somebody's having chest pain, you want them to go to the emergency room. That's where they should go. But I've had people who've complained to me about the emergency room who said, my foot was killing me, I couldn't put any weight on it. I mean, you could probably go to an urgent care for that. That's not a life or death situation, and at least get it checked out. You know, of course, when it comes to kids or the elderly, we have to take that, or people who have some sort of condition. You don't want to mess around with that. But the statistics, the percentage, and I really don't want to give out a number, but I want to tell you it's more than a third of the patients that come through the ER ultimately don't need emergent services. So just think about that. They see roughly 160 people a day in the emergency room. What I didn't know, that I kind of figured probably was the case. What I didn't know is by law, the minute someone walks through that door, they cannot say, hey, you should probably go to the urgent care. They must treat them. They must triage them there. And even if they know they don't belong there, they cannot send them away. They have to see them. They do it based on acuity, of course, what they feel is the most severe. You'll always hear a horror story of someone saying, well, I was more severe than the next person. And do they always get it right? I'm sure they don't. Nobody in any field always gets it right, but they do the best that they can. But they have to treat that. They have, I think, 38 bays in that emergency room. They see on average 7 behavioral health people coming through the emergency room every day for mental health issues. Once again, the minute they come through their door, they have to treat them. They can't say you belong somewhere else. What shocked me is that we've all probably unfortunately been in those emergency room bays before you can get a hospital bed. They said there are times where patients, including mental health patients, are in those bays for days, if not weeks. Which means if those bays are, because they have to go through this whole process. Now, we have Silver Oaks Behavioral Hospital. If it's full, it's full. And plus, once those people come through the emergency room, now they have to be seen by Silver Cross's social worker, psychiatrist, whoever it is, mental health professional they have to be diagnosed. There's a whole process that goes through with it. And so if you've got 38 bays and you've got people who are taking them up for days that maybe are not having a physical health issue, you can't take someone from the waiting room and put them into an emergency room. You also have, because it is a fantastic hospital and everyone wants to be there, hospital beds that are full. Their hospital beds are full. Well, if a hospital bed is full, you can't move someone from the emergency room bay up to a hospital room. I know I have been in that situation with a relative before, and we literally have slept in the emergency room bay because they couldn't get a room. I mean, that happens. And actually, that wasn't at our hospital. That was at a hospital in Indiana. So this is a crisis that is in hospitals. But it's not an excuse, it's an explanation. And we also know that depending on your insurance, they're not always kicking you out of the hospital right away. So there are people who are in the hospital for days, and then of course there are people who need to be in the hospital room for days, if not longer. But if there's no bed free, there's nowhere to move someone from the emergency bay, which there's no one to put someone in the emergency room. So what they'll do sometimes is triage somebody in the emergency room and send them back to the waiting area once they've taken their vitals and made sure that it's safe to put them back there. And that's what they do. Then you go back to the waiting room and wait. And so there are a lot of these factors, and you have people who don't have doctors and don't want to go to an urgent care that just go to the emergency room. And so because they cannot turn anyone away, you can imagine how this snowballs out of control. Now, those are the reasons that are sometimes out of their control. I address staffing with them. Silver Cross Hospital has and continues to outsource their emergency room doctors to a doctor, to an agency, to a medical group. The rest of the staff there are Silver Cross staff members, but their emergency room doctors are on contract, which I don't think is unusual for hospitals either. The question is, do they have enough emergency room doctors that are working? And we all know, and I'm certainly not accusing this group of that, but the more doctors you have, the less profit there is, and there you go. I'm not suggesting that that's the case, but I did bring that up to the CEO and to the group, which included a couple of doctors from that group. And I said, these are some of the things that we're hearing that are concerns. The reality is, if you had, and I think they're really trying to do a good job, but it's not like, an oil change place where you know when you're going to be busiest. You could have a problem at 2 PM, the next time it might be 11 o'clock at night. So they try to staff accordingly, but it's like a police department. When I first started working the day shift, there were 2 of us. Most of the time you were okay, but then the bank robbery came and you were screwed, so they do the best they can to try and schedule accordingly. You also don't want to have 5 doctors there and 3 people in the emergency room. So, it's a tough balance, but they need to really fine tune it, and I know that that's what they're working on. So that's one of the issues that they know they need to address, and something that is within their control. And I loved Ruth Colby. She was a very dear friend of mine and was a remarkable CEO and president for that hospital. The new CEO, Mike Mutterer, I've got a lot of confidence in him. He took this meeting very, very seriously. He assured me that they are aware of it, that they're on it, they're coming up with a plan to address it. And I'm going to give them the benefit of the doubt and assume that that's exactly what they're going to do because they are hearing it. Obviously, even though I'm the mayor of the town, I don't have any say in how they run their hospital. But they do know that we represent the people here, and they were very attentive to me being there because I was representing so many people, not only in our community, but beyond. So I'm grateful for that. They didn't just give me some lip service and say, okay, thanks. They know they have a problem. Especially when you talk about a hospital that gets incredibly high marks for everything they do, except in this area. And when you talk to anybody who's been there, once they get through the process, they're very happy. It's just that sitting in the room, sometimes for 8 hours, 10 hours, 11 hours. That's really, really tough. So, that being said, I'm going to continue to monitor and work with the CEO to see what their plan is, how they're addressing it. We have an obligation as a community and beyond to really use the emergency room for what it's meant for. By all means, you shouldn't take a chance. If you feel like your life is in jeopardy or something, or, by all means go. If you have a child that is, really sick or something, don't mess around with it. Get yourself to the hospital. But common sense needs to prevail as well. And so there is not just one solution. It isn't just a staffing problem. It isn't just using the emergency room the wrong. It's going to take everybody pitching in and doing their part. But the part that the hospital is responsible for, I'm confident that they're going to do everything they can to address it. They are a fantastic partner. And again, hands down in my book, it's the best thing we ever did in this community was supporting their move to this town. So I will be there tomorrow with many of our staff members and hospital people to honor Ruth Colby, something she certainly deserves. If you can make it, please do. If not, we understand. But I just wanted you all to be aware of that conversation. Okay? All right, thank you. Cool. That is all I have for tonight. I'm sorry. Kurt, you're up next. Village Attorney, anything?
Nothing tonight.
All right, thank you. Village Administrator, you want to discuss the gas station
Yeah, I
assessment?
have that. I have two things real quick. if I
Sure,
could Before that, I
please.
just want to say, Mark's here on his birthday, spending extra time with us.
Yeah.
But actually, Mark and his department, we had that storm last week.
Yes.
Had a lot of trees that they were taking care of and received, I know you and I talked about it, received a lot of compliments for the work that Mark and his department did for taking care of our residents.
Absolutely.
And continue to do. But also, staff worked very hard this weekend, very well attended for the Taco Fest.
Yes.
There's already discussion today on how we improve it for next year. I know I had enough tacos there on Saturday myself, but it was very well attended, and the staff comes from all departments to make those successful.
100%.
And now, discussion of the gas station study that the board had approved 6 months ago.
Right.
So our time is up and time to tell the results of that study. I know Robin had some comments from that. It shouldn't be very surprising from that study.
Go ahead, Rob.
Yes, so we hired SB Friedman, and I'm going to oversimplify what took them months and a lot of, I'm sure, deep dive analysis, but we have 13 gas stations. Speed Truck is not quite yet open. They would be number 14. And given the timing of when Thornton's opened and this study started, their sales really weren't factored into this because we didn't have enough data from them. But they are represented on here. On the number 9 in the middle is the Speedway on Illinois Highway in Cedar. So the number of gas stations has increased the overall sales tax generated by gas stations, but as you can see, the sales per gas station is going down. So basically, anytime a new one opens, yes, we do get an incremental increase in gas sales, but the success of the new ones is coming at the expense of the older ones. And a lot of that, the consultant thinks, is because the newer gas stations have other services. You know, they have car washes, they have, you know, independent food restaurants, so people might go there for gas because the best food in town is at some of our gas stations. They also looked at comparing our gas stations to national averages. So up until 2022, we did have room for growth. So both looking at gallons per store sold and then gallons per pump, we were above the national average. So that indicated that there was room for new gas stations growth. Now we are right at the national averages. So the conclusion that they came up with is that we have kind of saturated the market, especially along Leigh and Route 30. This again shows the total visits and for the gas stations back in 2019 and 2023, so you can see where the new ones have picked off and caused some of the existing ones' sales to go down. And then the last part of their analysis looked at the trade area. So it's really scary what they can do with cell phone data and know like where you live and where you buy your gas. But the blue was where people were coming from prior to 2019, and then the red is showing the additional areas that got picked up, you know, which there was a lot of overlap. You can see we did expand a little bit to the south and the east, but the area that is has the most opportunity for expansion is along the north. So the conclusion is that we've got enough gas stations along Leigh and Route 30, but there is opportunity for additional gas stations up on the north side, but they are recommending that, you know, we look at those very closely because we are cannibalizing off of our existing businesses. So staff has been working with the village attorney to start working on draft amendments to the zoning ordinance that would basically kind of grandfather what's existing, but limit any new gas stations to the Route 6 corridor, which we're defining as like plus or minus a half a mile. So those have to go before the Plan Commission. So we're going to publish that public hearing for August 20th, and then it would be before you for first read on August 26th.
Can you go back a slide, please? I mean, that's really telling. So you look at Route 6, and we'll go to 2023. The gas station, the one gas station up there, 527,000, which is considerably higher than anywhere else. That kind of shows we've got 350, and that's with nothing up there other than the hospital. So with the sports complex coming, where we anticipate just on the outdoor activity, approximately 250,000 visitors a year. You add the indoor, another 250 to 300,000.
New subdivision?
Yeah, we, excuse me, at the Tierling property, new subdivision with 500 homes. Plus there's development already slated on the north side of Route 6. So, you know, we have to have justification for what we did, and this gives us the justification, but I don't think this comes as a surprise to anybody that we're good other than on the north side of town, where there's already a need, and there will be additional need as development continues. But this is good, so we can, like I said, have the attorney work with that. That's one of the frustrating things I think we all know, and I know when I talk to Robin sometimes about somebody that wants to come in and they're, you know, zoned appropriately, and it's really frustrating for me because it's something I don't want to see. But we have an uphill battle sometimes, so we have to do this the right way to make sure that we don't have that problems. All right, any questions for Robin on this study? Anything else? All right, very good. All right, thank you, Robin. Anything else from staff?
Nothing further.
All right, very good. All right, payroll and disbursements, trustee Mattson.
Yes, sir. I make the motion to approve our bi-monthly disbursements in the amount of $3,707,722.71 and a disbursement in the amount of $7,827.70 In addition to these disbursements, approval is needed for payroll in the amount of $533,273.19 paid on July 12, 2024, and that is in a formal motion.
And I will second that.
All right, motion's been properly moved and seconded. Any comments or questions? Roll call vote, please.
Trustee Smith?
Aye.
Trustee Scalise?
Aye.
Trustee Mattson? Trustee Galuza?
Aye.
Trustee Christopherson?
Aye.
Trustee Wilson?
Aye.
Mayor Balderman?
Aye, motion carries. Anything else, Keith?
No, sir.
All right, very good, thank you. All right, we have nobody here from the public to speak tonight. Trustee comments, Trustee Smith?
Happy birthday, Mark. I remember turning 40 at this board. I remember turning 50 at this board. I remember turning 60 at this board. 30 at this board, too.
I think you were 12 at this point.
I think so. That's right. No other comment than that.
Very good, thank you. Trustee Mattson?
Hey, happy birthday, Mark.
Thank you.
Trustee Christopherson?
Happy birthday as well. I've got nothing else.
All right, very good. Trustee Galuza?
Happy birthday, Mark. And our hospital, I think, you know, it's easy for people to criticize because when they're visiting a hospital, they're in distress.
Sure.
So it's kind of hard to be optimistic when you walk into those situations. And I feel as though when you walk into Silver Cross, you're on the good side because there's a lot of hospitals that are much, much worse off. And there's a lot of things that go into it for people that don't have any type of medical background. In my former life, I was a paramedic and spent lots of hours in the emergency room. People come from all over because they want to be at the newest, nicest facility, which takes away from the local residents. It's life over limb. There's so many factors that go into it, and everybody's always quick to criticize, but I think they're doing a really great job. I've had wonderful experiences there, and I think everybody just needs to show a little grace.
I agree. And again, to their credit, they acknowledge they have work to do too.
Nobody's
And
perfect.
so, that's right. And so they're on it, but those are good points. Thank you. Trustee Wilson?
Congratulations again, Kim, and happy birthday, Mark.
Very good. Trustee Scalise?
Happy birthday, Mark, and thanks for all you and your crew do.
It does a lot, that's for sure. All right, we have no need for executive session tonight. Our next meeting is August 12th, so if there's nothing further, is there a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Second.
Motion by Trustee Smith, second by Trustee Scalise. All those in favor signify by a voice vote of aye.
Aye.
Opposed, meeting adjourned.